Welcome to Insights with Ovationz. I am your host, Aaron Ellis. We like to showcase the talent we have on our platform and help you get to know them a little bit on a personal and a professional level, help you get a little bit of insight into their expertise. And today I am joined with Mr. Victor Straw. Now, Victor is a former personal trainer, owner of 3 gyms, and a Marine. Let me say that again. Victor is a former personal trainer, owner of 3 gyms, and a Marine. His personal and professional experience combined with his commitment to excellence has led to a unique approach to leadership and coaching for executives, athletes, and individuals of all levels, honestly, as well as groups of any size. He has a gift for unleashing the strength within and empowering others to live their purpose. I'm going to stop there and welcome you. Victor, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you, Aaron. I am doing great. Happy to be here.
Awesome. I would love to dive in a few things that I know about you. I know we want to talk a little bit about your personal. I want everybody to get to know you. So let's start with your story. What brought you to where you are today?
I'm going to give you the short Cliff Notes version. Otherwise, we'll be here for a while. But raised on a dairy farm in Wisconsin, I ended up going in the Marines right out of high school. Ended up serving in the Persian Gulf War in 1991. And then I got out, got a degree in health and human performance and business. I always loved and fascinated with fitness. And I had a dream at a young age that I wanted to own my own gym. I went to work for a big box gym for a few years, rose up in management and said, you know what, I think it's time for me to spread my entrepreneurial wings and go on and do my own thing. So since then, I've owned 3 different gyms. I've had the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. I went through a major crisis in my businesses. One time I went through a bankruptcy 13 years ago during the recession of 08, 09. And that was sort of the beginning of the end for me in many ways. I struggled and battled with some depression, some mental health issues. And, when you go through a bankruptcy and you lose, it's one thing to lose the business. Then I went through a divorce and, just things in my life really started to unravel and fall apart. And then I just started chasing the wrong things through addictions and, trying to fill in the gap in things that I thought would make me feel good or make me feel whole. And, just kept messing up my life by my own faults. And then I just sort of at the end of my rope one day, I'm like, I got to get my life together. I got to straighten it out. I had to walk out of this thing, navigate some things in my life. And, for me, it was really leaning on my faith was a beginning point for me. And then just start taking the right steps to correct my negative behavior, deal with some mental health. I had to get around a tribe of people to help me and to basically just overcome and keep walking this out. And then get back in the business realm and start having success and for me, it's about impact. I love to impact people's lives. I happen to have a platform of doing it mostly through fitness, but now I'm maybe elevating that platform, if you will, and taking it to different levels, different stages, and helping more people in the business realm too, because I've had success in business. I've had failure in business, been through a lot there, but then also a lot from my personal standpoint, relational standpoint too, that I have I like to call it a track record of failures, but I've gone through that and I made it to the other side. So if I can help somebody, that's really what I want to do right now.
I love that. That was extremely transparent. I appreciate that. And it sounds like you've been to the top and the bottom and you've literally embraced the lessons and unwrapped the gifts as you went. It's interesting because a lot of times when I ask people that question, they only showcase the good, right? And I actually have a dear friend of mine who always says, don't brag about your successes, brag about your failures, right? I'm like, that's an interesting way to put it. You just reminded me of that. So what would you say was the key thread that you've taken from that? Like the key foundational truth that you've taken forward for yourself that you now take to other people? Was it inspiration? I know we talked about you have a way of unleashing strength within. How would you categorize that? Or if we could come up with like a real pinpoint word around that, what would it be?
Aaron, I absolutely love that question. That's outstanding. There's a couple of words that come to mind. My first thought is humility. I think when we're on the bottom, that old adage or old saying, it's like, when you find yourself in a hole, first thing you got to do is stop digging. And to be humble and say, okay, I can't do this on my own. I need help, whether it's just a friend recommending to me at a time that, go see a psychologist or psychiatrist, get some help. And it's funny, my reaction the first few times he kept saying it to me was I just laughed. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm going through a tough spot in my life, but I'm fine. and not realizing that I was severely depressed, but just being humble, saying, hey, I need help and I can't do this on my own. I've tried on my own and I keep failing. The second word that comes to mind is resiliency. I love the word resilient or resiliency. I think in life, I don't think I know. We're all going to go through storms. We're going to go through tough times. We're going to go through challenges. We're going to go through setbacks. We're just going to get our teeth knocked in. Hopefully we don't have a lot of storms, but it seems like some of us have our fair share of storms. And I think life is about getting back up, building that resilient muscle, and going after it again. We'll get through this storm, but there ain't no guarantee there's not another storm around that corner or the next day, the next week, or even, the next season of our lives. So being humble, I think, is a major factor in, taking the right mindset and right step in the right direction. But then also knowing that, hey, I got to build some resiliency here because I got to learn from these mistakes and I got to move on because there's more things coming at me in life that I just got to be ready for.
Amazing. So you spurred some other thoughts in me as you were saying this. And I have seen, at least in my speaking career and my engagements with corporations and stuff over the last, let's say last decade, but even progressively over the last handful of years, that the understanding of personal and professional are not separate, and the need to ask for help, and the like you could say the death of the Lone Ranger, right? But the ability to ask for help and understand how that's truly connected to resiliency. So in your own experience, or even in what you're doing now, as far as if you were to take your experience and craft that towards a corporation or towards business leaders now, how would you communicate that in a world that has traditionally been leave the personal at home? And I know it's not just men, but obviously there's a big slant towards men not asking for help, right? It not being a norm. But I think we're on the cusp of that. So curious on what arises for you around that.
Oh my gosh, these are great, Aaron. They all connect. I mean, if I'm having a personal challenge, whether it's in my marriage or I have 3 daughters, with one of my daughters, that's going to bleed into how I perform today at work. Or if I work for you and your company, that's going to have a negative effect on what I can do for you and your company as me being your employee. So if you, as my employer, or my boss, or my manager, that, hey, Victor's going through some tough stuff. For you just to give me that little ounce of time and say, hey, you doing okay today? Or you need to talk today? Or, not that it has to be a counseling session, but for you to basically say that this guy cares about me. He wants me to be okay so I can perform for him. Okay. I think there's got to be a synergy, that mesh that, if I'm, or even if I'm vice versa, if I'm struggling at work, I want to be able to, vent or talk to my spouse and say, hey, you know what, it's been a tough day, this. And then we sort of can rebuild up again and go back at it the next day, or even that day stronger, but at least the next day or the next week, and get back on that horse again. Because you're right, there is the days of the Lone Ranger of trying to tackle this on our own. I mean, we can for a season, and a season might be a day or two or a week or two, but we're not going to get far. And then either our relationships are going to suffer, our business performance is going to suffer. We're going to look up and it could be 6 months later and we're out of a job because all we did was our performance kept going down and down and down. So to have them together, but know that, we got to elevate my performance. I got to elevate my mindset. I got to, battle back whatever it is and try to overcome this. And there could be somebody at work that might be that perfect person that can speak into your life just to encourage you, inspire you to, hey, keep going. I got your back. If you need a little bit extra help, I'm with you today. Or vice versa. We sort of carry each other's, one of the things I learned in the Marine Corps, it's like, sometimes someone else has to carry our pack when we can't make it. Someone's got to reach down and just grab us, behind the neck a little bit and get up over that hump. And honestly, I think that's what we're all here for, Aaron. We need each other. And I hope we're entering a day and age where it's a little bit more prevalent like that. If we need help, the first thing you want to do is you want to ask for help.
You said something that I've heard in my working with corporate clients and whatnot, as far as how to bridge that gap of personal professional, how to be empathetic, how to be compassionate with your employees, how to cultivate a deeper relationship. And you said it doesn't have to be a counseling session. And that's been brought up a lot of times when I've worked with like upper level management and whatnot to come up with these concepts and ways that they can actually flow differently with their employees. So I want to dive in that a little bit further from your own personal experience. And then if you can translate it to a corporate environment. I know you as a business owner, obviously you've had to apply some of this yourself, not just in the way that you said you need to ask for help, but how have you dealt with your employees or people that were reporting to you, coming and asking you for help, and how do you help others understand that and implement that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways that I've done with it. And one of the biggest things is just you recognize people, their nature, their personality. And if they're a little bit, maybe more subdued today, or, they're just not their bubbly, energetic self. Everybody can have a bad day it could be something simple that's not that deep. But if there's another, 2, 3, 4 days in a row, it's like, hey, come into my office, let's chat. You doing okay? And 9 times out of 10, it's right away, you sort of open up the can of worms and they can say, you know what? I mean, it could be something as not simple, but my dog died. We've had our dog for 12 years. Obviously, it's a member of the family. And again, just knowing that and then helping people walk through that mourning or suffering, it just, again, makes them feel so much better. So being empathetic and just, asking those right questions. Plus, another more professional way that I would do it, we would do weekly trainings where, okay, my immediate staff or the directors would come in. We would do like a personal development topic of the week. It could be, something about are we using our environment? Is it conducive to all of us being the best we possibly can be on a daily basis? Are we drinking our water? Are we, eating healthy snacks? Are we doing the things that we can do that we have control of in our environment? Or are we using our calendar? Are we setting up our appointments right? And then we would do trainings like that. Sometimes it was light, joyful, happy stuff. Sometimes it was a little bit deeper that we could, how can we raise our level of performance? And we're all feel like, okay, we're contributing more, we're living to our purpose more, we're getting more out of our work because we're pouring more into it. So we're getting more back from it, and we're impacting more lives in the process. So those two things come to mind, just having that empathetic, that personal touch and recognizing that in your people, but then also do some deliberate, intentional training sessions, whether it's weekly or monthly, and help people grow professionally and personally.
Yeah, so you brought up the thought around what we're doing at Ovationz. Like, we're really changing the way we're solving issues in companies with Ovationz, where the traditional speakers would come in on a yearly basis or a quarterly basis at the most. And so the narrative in somebody's mind or a company's mind was, well, I only have speakers coming at this time. So rather than that, what we've been cultivating is bringing in subject matter experts and bringing them in on a regular basis. So you reference in your own companies these weekly meetings or these regular meetings. I understand that consistency is key to change. How would you apply that as far as bringing compassion, bringing that, bridging that gap we're talking about with the personal and the professional, and helping those leaders actually cultivate a new way of being? How would you apply that in a company as far as that kind of consistency, rather than just coming in for a one day? We're working on actually, coming in on a weekly meeting basis for short form talk. So I'm curious on your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think I'm a big believer in baby steps. I call it baby steps in my programs. It's like doing something consistent on a regular basis. For a lot of my clients, it's a daily action item, and it's whether you got to mentally check that box or whatever. But if we do the baby steps, we're going to get to where we want to get to, typically a lot faster than we anticipated. And whether it's, again, daily or weekly, but then also having a goal or an objective to shoot for. It's like, if I'm the director of a division or the owner of the business, okay, what do I really want my people to, to see, to become, to feel? Who do I want my people to be to operate at a high level? And then we got something to shoot for, a target out there. Now let's get them there. And if it's, maybe it's consistency in their sales, or maybe it's, having a better, attitude, or, again, there could be many, many factors here, but knowing what we're shooting for and then taking those consistent baby steps to get there, and giving them a little to-do list, and a lot of people like, all right, I got something that I'm going after now. I got something that, is going to make me become, more marketable. I'm learning more skills, or more profitable for me and the company. We make more money. We're in this together. We like that. I think people like a challenge a little bit. And, I'm a big advocate of growth. If I can grow, again, I want to be better. I would say I want to be better tomorrow than I am today, even if it's a little baby step. I want to be a better husband. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better person. I want to be more compassionate and empathetic. And it's just these little things that we can do on a daily basis where one day we look up and like, oh my gosh, I'm a lot better in these areas, even though I've just done little things, consistently over time.
So here's a good question around that. So in my experience too, like I remember like even a decade ago going into corporations, they're like, well, we need more talks around skill set, not mindset. Like they didn't understand that they were both interchangeable. Literally, it's like even when I'd go in to talk about skill set, we'd move into mindset. I'd go in to talk about mindset, we'd go into skill set. They literally overlap. There's no way that they don't, right? So one of the things that was always like said, well, I need quantifiable metrics. I need to understand how we're moving the needle. And a lot of companies look at it like, well, I need to spend more money and time on things that are driving revenue. I personally have found the mindset stuff and the mental health and the health and wellness aspect a key factor in driving revenue. They figured that out in the health insurance industry. They figured that out in certain metrics on health and wellness things for employees that actually brought the rates of the insurance down, the health insurance for the employees, for the companies. But what's your experience with that on a personal level, as far as moving the needle with revenue based on all the things we're talking about that you've experienced with your own employees and own staff?
Aaron, these are outstanding questions. I would say that if you can improve or increase in areas that are sort of intangibles, like a word that when you ask that question, I think of integrity. So if I can teach my employees and my staff to live a life of greater integrity, they're going to do everything that's going to improve my bottom line. They're going to show up to work on time. They're going to want to put in the extra mile. They're going to want to stay late. They're going to work harder on the tasks that they have for the day because they want to operate with integrity. And I want to be an honest man or woman. I want to work hard for my employer. I want to do the right thing. I want to do and operate at a level of excellence. And even if that's something that I can push myself a little bit harder, did I do the best on my sales calls today? Or did I do the best, in my customer service role today? But if I think in the back of my mind, how would a person of integrity do this? Then I think we'll know in a month, for sure within a quarter, if that bottom line is improving, you have happier or better customer satisfaction, because you're right. They definitely, they do overlap. And if we can help people have that positive mindset and a growth mindset and, a mindset of greater excellence, that's going to definitely help the bottom line.
Excellent answer. This has been an awesome dialogue, to tell you the truth. So just for our listeners, I wanted to showcase and have you guys really put in some context to what Victor and I have been discussing, and actually have you make a earmark to go back and listen to this again, to where we are at Ovationz are actually curating these subject matter experts who have been there and done that. It's not theoretical what they speak on. They actually have gone through the ringer, per se, as Victor has shared. They've seen the bottoms, they've seen the top, and they're still doing it. So they're leaders that know the way, they show the way, they continue to go the way themselves and grow the way, meaning they're continuing to work on themselves so they can continue to lead. And you, Victor, you've done an incredible job at showcasing that today. And the final thought I have for you, final question, if you would, and again, whatever arises, what is the final thing we could leave with people? If this was the last thing you could say, what would you want everybody to be left with today?
A couple things, Aaron, is one, I always, I don't have all the answers, and I don't think none of us do. We might be experts in a little bit of our arena because of the stuff we've been through, but I really believe that we need each other. I have a strong faith that God put us on each other's path, on each other's journey for a reason. I can't just walk this out alone. Maybe I can get a little bit far on my own, but boy, if we lock arms with some other people that want to lift us up and really help us along the way, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 15, 20 people, we're going to go super far. I think having a mindset to just keep getting back up, keep moving forward, even after that sort of light bulb goes off, we're still going to have some setbacks. We're going to have some backslides. We're going to have some failures in our life. And like I said earlier, we're going to have some storms. That's just part of life. But get back up, throw your shoulders back, put a smile on your face, and go back and get it today. Try a little bit harder. There's got to be a little bit extra effort. You know what? And again, you might get knocked flat on your back today, but get back up and keep going, because I believe all of us have this something inside of us that we are created for greatness. We are created for more. We have some abilities and talents in us that nobody else does. And if we walk them out to the fullest, we can make a huge, huge impact in our world.
Very integral and very much congruent with your word resiliency. So everybody, thank you for joining us today. This has been another episode of Insights with Ovationz. We've had Victor Straw on today. If you are a company who's looking to basically improve the areas of leadership, human resources, from your employee relations to your talent cultivation to even motivating your sales teams, Victor's your guy. Please head over to ovationz.com and check out Victor, and we will see you on the next episode.